Welcome to the Broken Phoenix podcast. I'm your host, Zach Allen. This is episode number 2. I titled it The Support System. Before we get into this episode, I want to give thanks to everybody who supported this podcast. Many people shared my podcast on social media and my post, putting it out there. I'm overwhelmed by the response that I got from people. Some of the people I haven't heard from in a long time, from high school to undergrad and college to graduate school, everything. I had a bunch of people reach out to me and they're willing to come on the podcast and be interviewed and talk about their experiences, their trauma a little bit, and how they kept slaying the dragons and kept on winning. And I'm appreciative of that. I thank all of you. Those that reached out to me, I had people reach out to me to some very dark things that you would never guess that they went through. They messaged me on Facebook Messenger, Instagram, all that bullshit. But I'm very appreciative that they did, because that's the point of this podcast, to show that we're all human and we all go through some shit. So I want to thank all of you that reached out to me. I want to thank all of you that shared the post and the podcast to try and reach more people, because that's the goal, is to help a bunch of people throughout this process. And also, again, for me. First and foremost, I want to define support systems. Yes, I'm going to be that nerd. Merriam-Webster defines a support system as a network of people who provide an individual with a practical or emotional support. I don't know where I'd be without these people in my life, man, to be honest. These were my go-to people from the start. Whenever shit started falling apart, going through trauma after trauma, these are the people I could always lean on. Marcus Aurelius says, "We should give to others like a vine gives grapes, or the bee makes honey." To serve other people without seeking the admiration or sympathy of others. The reward is deeper than trivial applause. The reward is better than thanks. The reward is to work with and for our fellow men and women in order to help our function. These people definitely helped my function throughout these last couple of years. It first started off as a triangle to me, but then quickly evolved into a square. And these are just metaphors that I put to it. I mean, it was my triangle of people, 3 people that were in my corner day in and day out. And then I had a 4th person come in and help me out in a different role. So I evolved it to my square. And they all play different roles. And I view it as I'm in the center with my children. And I got these 4 people surrounding me, helping me through everything. So let's get into it. The first person is the logical caregiver. That's what I labeled this person as. And as we go throughout this, don't think that number 1, 2, 3, or 4 is the importance of people in my life. That's not it at all. You're all important. It's just how I started writing this episode up, and that's how you came up, and it is what it is. This person is the person you see or talk to every single day. They listen to you and provide logical views in a tactful way. You know, you go to your support system and you say, mother F this and mother F that and all this. But this logical person sometimes has to play devil's advocate and be like, hey, maybe they're viewing it in this point, and see if you can see it from that viewpoint. They help stitch you up on a regular basis, and they try not to exhaust this person as well, and be willing to return the favor. This person throws you the fucking life jacket and the rope and gets you out of the deep end, the wave, and get you back on that beach and on the side of the pool. When you just slayed a big dragon, but you were bruised, beaten, battered, and bleeding everywhere, this person will stitch you up and they get your extra chainmail and they beat out the dents in your armor and they put it all back on you and they say, stand up and it's time to get out of it and let's keep pressing forward. That's that person. Every single day. So that person for me, thank you for putting up with my bullshit every single day and getting me out of the suck, getting me back into the fight, and not getting exhausted, even though when I know you were exhausted. You helped me a lot. Thank you. My second person is my advocate / defender. Once again, this is just a blueprint that I'm providing you with. This is not scientifically based. This is for me. And if it helps you, great. That's the goal of this. If you have 20 people, if you have 10 people, if you have 5 people, you have 2 people, 1 person, 4 like me, it doesn't matter. As long as you can assign people to different roles, that's what I'm trying to give you a blueprint for. The advocate or defender. This person is like your cheerleader. They have a way with words and know the right things to say at the right time. They send daily messages to you, even if it's just to say good morning. They'll always have your back, just like the first person. They're always going to build you up no matter what. Even when you're inner voice like me, on the Enneagram, I'm a number 1. Myers-Briggs, I'm an ESTJ. So I got this inner voice in me that is always hard, always holds myself accountable, says I'm not good enough. These are the people that say, hey, you are good enough. You're going to get through this. You're a great man and great father and everything else. Even when you doubt yourself. This person's so crucial in the fact that every day, at least for me, when I woke up throughout this divorce and other trauma, man, I would process like 7 times a day. I'd motherfuck the world. Everything's out of my control. I'm not to blame for this. I'm to blame for that, but not for this. It's unfair. All of that. This person's going to have your back and talk you off the ledge. In contrast, you have to help this person keep a level head as well, because sometimes they're going to be so defensive of you that they're going to want to cut somebody or key their car or do whatever else. Help each other out in that fact. But this person is just as valuable as number 1 and as the rest of them. So is number 1. Let's move on to number 3. Number 3 is the co-signer. With this one, I sign an emotion to it, and that's anger. Not that emotion isn't assigned to the other ones. Again, this is for me. And if you can relate to it, that's awesome, and that's what we're trying to do. This person reminds me from a scene in the movie The Town with Ben Affleck, Jeremy Renner, and other people. And if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about, or at least I think you know where I'm coming from. It's that scene where Ben Affleck goes to Jeremy Renner's apartment and is like, I need your help. We're going to hurt some people. And you can't ever talk about it. And Jeremy Renner's like, whose car are we taking? That's the co-signer. Sometimes all of these people can channel this mindset, but this person is always ready. This person you go to when you just need to vent, get shit off your chest. You say, you know what? I just need you to listen. Motherfuck the world and this person and everybody that wronged me and everything's out of my control, blah, blah, blah. And you just yell and scream and banter. Get real demonstrative. Swinging your arms everywhere. And if you're on the phone, they can't see it, but who cares? And say, yeah, you know what? Motherfuck the world. And it is unfair. And it is out of your control. But you know what? I'm right here with you. And guess what? We don't live there anymore. We're right now. And we're alive. Feel the anger, for sure. But we're going to move on. This one I relate to a little bit in the sense that with my athletes, anytime I feel that they're out of the ordinary, I'll tell them, come to my office, we can talk, sit down. And I'll say, before we begin, you can talk and say whatever you want. I have no problem. I'm for it. But do you want vent or feedback? And about 90% of them choose feedback. And I will give them the best advice that I possibly can give through everything I've been through. Sometimes they'll just say vent. And that's okay. So I'll let them just take it out on me, yell at me, scream, cuss, swear, whatever. Get it off your chest. Bad test grade. Your boyfriend broke up with you. Your girlfriend broke up with you. Doesn't matter. Your dog died. Grandma died. Parents, a friend, whatever. Get off your chest. Yell. It's cathartic. I once heard on the radio before that a group of moms, I think it was in Connecticut during COVID, and they would just go out to a field and they formed this group and they would just yell top of their lungs and it helped them. I told one of my athletes this. I used to do this. I used to be in my car, drive into work or home, and I would just yell top of my lungs. Man, did I feel so good afterwards. Even if it were just for 2 or 3 minutes, I felt so good. And they did as well. So when I go to this person, I'm like, we're just going to vent, man. You can give me some feedback. That's who I am personally. I want feedback. But this person, I'm like, you know what? It's going to be like 90% vent. Give me a little bit of feedback if you want. But I'm just going to vent. And I'm like, you know what? Whose car we taking? I'll be right there with you. Next to you. We'll key someone's car, anything like that. That's a joke, by the way. One thing I want everybody to take from this, by the way, I don't want you to react off of emotion. I want you to react off of logic. This is the person that you can be really emotional with and say all the bullshit you want to say, no matter how inappropriate it is. Because guess what? Anger is a motherfucking feeling, a normal feeling that everybody feels. And you should feel it too. The key is to not react off of that anger. The key is to react off of logic. Let the anger out for sure with your people. Then process it logically. And then you move the fuck on. Don't hang out in that anger. Let it out with your friend. And then you move on calmly. It is therapeutic. Helps you out a lot. So spend some time with this friend and then move on. So to my co-signer, thank you for listening to my bullshit and hearing me bitch and complain and be angry, but also help me bring me back to reality. Number 4 is the listener / distractor. Again, that's just what I label these people as. And this is the person that you take sadness to. This is the person that calmly listens. They don't provide much feedback, as that's not their role. They're great at providing distractions. provide you with some segues into an action that takes you out of the deep end. They just listen, man. They're a little bit like the cosigner in that regard, but like it's with all emotions. You're real sad. You're like, man, I miss this person, or I'm feeling in dumps about this. I'm just sort of sad. I'm not really that angry. And they're like, yeah, I get it. I would feel the same way you do too. I understand it. It's all good. But then they were like, hey, you want to go bowling later? You want to go see this movie that we've been wanting to see for a little while? Do you want to go axe throwing? Do you want to go paddle boarding? Do you want to play video games? All that stuff. They're with you no matter what, but they help get you out of the sadness. They'll listen to you at first, and that's fine. And you need to feel that too, for sure. It's not a negative emotion. Fuck what everyone says. Everybody feels it too. It's normal. But then they're like, hey, let's go do something to get you out of that deep end. It doesn't have to be aggressive. Sudoku, cards, whatever. Doesn't matter. So I want to say to my listener / distractor, thank you for just being there. Again, I see you on a regular basis. You help me through the suck more than what you know. You listen to my bullshit. You're my everyday therapist as well. And I appreciate you. Honorable mentions outside of my square of people. My therapist, for sure. The last 2.5, 3 years, you've been there. You help me through the suck, perspectives, everything. Some days you just listen and shut the hell up and let me vent. Other days you give me a little bit of feedback and some perspective, and it helps a lot. Thank you very much. And you've done way more for me than what I'm willing to mention on this podcast. Thank you 1,000 times. My mom, you sort of go with the cosigner, you go with all of it, to be honest. But that's biological. You're going to have my back no matter what. And I appreciate that. And you gave me some advice here and there. But you're always there no matter what. And I appreciate it. To my stepdad, you've been through some similar things. You're actually going through a lot of your own shit currently. You're still able to put your shit aside and be there for me. And I appreciate that deeply. Thank you. To my sister Abby, who I confided in the beginning of this as well. Though we don't talk every day like my other people, you were one person that put a lot of perspective into my life at the beginning of this. Because I blame myself a lot at the beginning with a bunch of marriage stuff. But you helped put things in perspective and help me stop blaming myself so damn much and taking so much responsibility. So I thank you as well. I love all of you, and I thank you, and I will fucking be here forever throughout your lives as long as you need me. You know, throughout this process, I felt like I was a burden to people. And I think that's a stigma that a lot of people go through as well. As you're like, man, I don't want to sound like a fucking coward. I don't want to reach out to people and them judge me. Feel like I'm weak. And all the other synonyms associated with that. I'm not going to mention all that. But that's not the case, man. And that's the point of this podcast. Reach out to people. They're willing to help you more than what you know. Conversely, find that balance. Confide in people, and that's fine. But you also need to help your people out as well. Don't invalidate their trauma with your trauma. Don't think that your trauma trumps their trauma, but don't invalidate your trauma as well. Find that balance. Feel your shit for sure. Process it. But if they're going through something too, repay the motherfucking favor. Pay it back to them. These great people stepped out of their comfort zone, took time out of their day from their families and stuff to be there for your ass. So when you have a moment to breathe, be there for them too. And if you find the right people, man, they will always reassure you that aren't a burden. As you should reassure these people that they aren't a burden either. Help each other out. It takes a village, for sure. Be there for each other, no matter what. So that's the meat and potatoes of this episode. Support system. Again, I have 3-4 people and some honorable mentions and stuff too. You can have as many people as you want. I don't give a shit. But know that this podcast is here for you and trying to help you. And hopefully we laid some groundwork for you. Like I mentioned in the first episode, I want to end each episode with the Phoenix perspective. And this Phoenix perspective is called the Robin Williams effect. I'm going to give a shout out to Rochelle Royer Mann, who is my ex-wife's distant cousin. We used to hang out with her back in middle school, high school days. She reached out to me with this podcast saying how I could help women as well. And I thank you, Rochelle, for this coined term, if you will, phrase, and reaching out in general. Because once again, I'm gearing this towards men because, again, we operate out of the amygdala and it's anger first and it's all the other emotions second. And I'm a man myself and I know how we think. But I had Rochelle and a couple other females reach out to me. Like, you could help females too. And I hope it does. I'm just trying to help people. That's all this is. So thank you for reaching out, Rochelle, when you didn't have to. And I love this Robin Williams effect that you mentioned. Again, giving credit to her. Basically, the Robin Williams effect is you're happy looking on the outside, but screaming and angry and sad on the inside. This those motherfuckers that post on Instagrams, Snap Talk, Your Book, My Face, Twitter, all that bullshit, social media, where you just post nothing but the good shit. We're at the beach, we're at Universal, we're at Disneyland, we're at whatever escape, and we're happy, and we're sled riding, all this stuff. But nobody posts the real shit. I've fallen victim to this myself as well. All we're doing is masking the pain. We're making jokes. And that's okay to an extent. I'm guilty of it. I mean, I tell people to laugh at my pain all the time. And it's fine. Like, to me, that's just my personality. Laugh at my pain. But to some people, that's not right. I like to use the phrase living a dream one nightmare at a time. That's what we're doing. A lot of us is living a dream, but it's a nightmare at a time. But we don't talk about it. And I think a lot of us are scared to talk about it. And that's okay. I get it. That's what was bestowed upon us. But this podcast is here to tell you to say, fuck it. You don't have to live that nightmare. You can still live the dream. And it can be imperfect. It doesn't have to be polished and all that stuff. No way. That's not everybody. That's not normal. We all go through shit, and it's okay. Live the dream one nightmare at a time, but take care of the motherfucking nightmares. They don't have to exist all the time. They come to surface, deal with them, and then get rid of them and get back in the fight. I often talk about this book that I read called The Way of the Seal by Mark Devine, who's a former Navy SEAL. Again, if you don't know who Marcus Aurelius is or Mark Devine, Way of the Seal, it's worth a Google. Give it a shot. I'm not going to hold your hand through all this shit. But in the book, Mark Devine challenges you to respond to greetings in a different way. For example, when somebody was always like, "Hey, Zach, how's it going?" I used to respond, "Not bad. I'm doing okay." Things like that. Simple gestures. In his book, he challenges you to do something different. Respond in a more cheerful manner, right? So I started changing my responses. I started saying, "Wonderful, stupendous, fucking fantastic, awesome." And people started looking at me a different way. I did this for multiple reasons. One reason was like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Even if I were having a shitty day, even if somebody keyed my car, they kicked my dog, they told me that my haircut was stupid as hell and I was fat, all this, I would still walk into the building and say, "I'm doing wonderful, awesome, fucking fantastic, stupendous." Even when my wife said I wanted a divorce, I went to my athletes and said, "I'm doing great, stupendous, awesome, wonderful." It was like a self fulfilling prophecy. I was trying to trick myself into saying, "Hey, I am wonderful. Even if it were fake it till you make it, whatever you got to do to survive, I did it." And it helped. On the other side, I would say these things to try and bring other people up with me. Even if I were feeling shitty, I try and bring them up with me too. If I knew they weren't winning games and they did a bad on a test and all that shit, they'd be like, "Hey, Zach, how's it going?" "I'm doing awesome." And they'd be like, "Oh my God, what the hell?" And they would smile a little bit and be, "This guy's off his fucking rocker. The cheese fell off the cracker with this guy. He's not the most absorbent paper towel. Is he crazy?" "Are you doing awesome?" "Yeah, I'm doing awesome." Even if I was going through a divorce, because it brought those people up with me. Even if they just found out they just lost a parent, or they just failed a test, or they broke up with their boyfriend or their girlfriend. And I'd say that for that split second, they were able to laugh. And if you're able to laugh or smile, let you know you're alive in that moment. And you can breathe. Even if it's for 30 seconds, who gives a shit? You're alive. And that's what it does. It helps bring you up personally, and it helps bring others up around you. And that's where it ties into the Robin Williams effect. You can put on this front, that's okay, but the other side of the sword, I want you all to take care of yourselves and take care of others around you, so we don't succumb to what Robin Williams did. Sometimes that happens. It's genetic. Like I mentioned in the first episode, my uncle killed himself. And you can't do anything about it. It's just their choice. And I got mad at first. It was like, how selfish and all that. But as time went on and I grew up and I went through more trauma, I get it. I understand it. Like I said, we're going to talk about some difficult shit moving forward. I hope you're all ready for it because this shouldn't be put in the shadows. Because it's normal thinking. Just help each other through it, man. So that's the Robin Williams effect. For me, at least, that's what I interpreted it as. Thank you, Rochelle, again. I will give credit where credit's due. So the second episode. I hope you all can take something from it. I'll sign off with my norm, and this is going to be the norm moving on. Stay in the fight. Never, ever give up. And have the day you deserve. Until next time.